Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. What do you do when the brightest light in your world is suddenly threatened by something you can't fight with money, power, or influence? Steffi's life has always been complicated, dramatic, and full of high stakes emotion, but nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared her for the moment her son Douglas looked up at her with wide, serious eyes and told her he had cancer. Not a rumor, not a scare, not a maybe. Cancer. And not just that, the doctors gave him 3 months to live. 3 months. In an instant, the powerful Forrester family, a dynasty used to controlling boardrooms and shaping fashion empires, was reduced to something painfully human, a family desperate to save a little boy. From that moment on, every second became precious, every decision impossible, and every ounce of strength was tested in ways they never imagined. Douglas had always been the sunshine in Steffi's world. His laughter filled with halls of the mansion in a way that made all the tension, all the family feuds, and all the romantic chaos feel smaller. He had this innocence about him, this ability to exist above the drama that constantly swirled around the Forrester name. That's why, when Steffi walked into the living room that morning and saw him sitting quietly, too quietly, on the edge of the sofa, something in her chest tightened. And then she saw it. His head was completely bald. The soft morning light pouring in through the window made him look smaller, thinner, almost fragile in a way she had never seen before. When he looked at her and said, slowly and carefully, that the doctors told him he had cancer, the world didn't just stop, it shattered. Imagine being a mother and hearing that from your child's mouth. Imagine trying to process the word cancer while looking at the face of you carried, protected, and loved more than your own life. Steffi dropped to her knees beside him, grabbing his small hand as if holding on tight could somehow anchor him to this world. She promised they would fight. She promised they would get through it. But promises feel different when you already know the timeline. The doctors had been brutally honest. Aggressive cancer, 3 months. That number echoed in every room of the mansion. Once the news spread, Ridge arrived first, panic written all over his face. In just minutes, he looked older, like the weight of the world had pressed down on him all at once. This wasn't a corporate crisis. This wasn't a scandal that could be smoothed over with strategy. This was his grandson, a little boy. He held Steffi, trying to be strong, telling her they would do everything possible. But even as he spoke, there was fear in his eyes, the kind of fear no powerful man can hide. Liam came next, and seeing him stripped of his usual confidence was heartbreaking. In its own way, he walked into the mansion pale and shaken, clutching a stuffed rabbit Douglas loved. When he knelt down in front of his son, words failed him. What do you say to your child in a moment like that? He wrapped his arms around Douglas and Steffi, promising that they wouldn't face this alone. But behind that promise was the crushing reality that love doesn't automatically equal a cure. Taylor arrived with her calm professional strength, trying to be the steady presence everyone desperately needed. She stroked Douglas' smooth head gently, telling him how brave he was, Then she turned to Steffi, reminding her that every moment mattered, every treatment, every ounce of hope. Yet, even Taylor, with all her rational thinking and medical knowledge, couldn't soften the harshness of the prognosis. 3 months hung over them like a dark cloud that refused to move. As the days passed, Steffi lived in a constant tug of war between fierce determination and quiet despair. She did everything she could to shield Douglas from fear. She read to him under the glow of his bedside lamp, held him when he fell asleep, whispered reassurances she desperately wanted to believe. But when he wasn't looking, tears slipped down her face, because the signs were there: the pale skin, the exhaustion, the way he sometimes stared off like he was trying to understand something too big for a child his age. The doctors laid out the options clearly: chemotherapy, aggressive treatments, painful side effects, no guarantees. Every choice felt like a gamble. Do they push his small body to endure brutal treatments for a slim chance? Or do they focus on comfort, on joy, on taking the time left as beautiful as possible? Late at night, when Douglas was asleep, Steffi and Ridge argued in whispers that sometimes turned into sobs. They weren't fighting each other, they were fighting fate, fighting the clock, fighting a reality that felt cruel and unfair. There were moments that cut deeper than anything. One night, when Steffi begged Douglas to keep fighting, to hold on, he looked at her with tired eyes and simply said he was exhausted. That quiet confession shattered her, because bravery doesn't erase fatigue, strength doesn't erase pain. She held him tighter, wishing she could take every ounce of his suffering into herself. The extended family carried their own silent heartbreak. Brooke sat by his bed, trying to be the pillar she had always been. Even as fear threatened to spill into every public and professional space she occupied, she would stroke his hand, remembering the children she had raised, reflecting on how fragile life truly is. For all their glamour and wealth, none of it mattered in that hospital room. In rare quiet moments, Steffi and Reach walked through the gardens, searching for a sense of peace. Steffi admitted she didn't know how to prepare for losing her child. Ridge, though devastated, reminded her that love was the only thing they could truly control. They couldn't stop the illness, but they could fill his days with warmth, memories, and comfort. And through it all, Douglas remained unbelievably brave. He joked with nurses, he drew colorful pictures and taped them to hospital walls. He tried to lift his family's spirits even when he was the one who needed lifting. The doctors often commented on his resilience, amazed by his ability to smile in the face of something so terrifying. Liam became a constant presence: appointments, therapies, long silent nights in hospital chairs. He was there. He and Steffi shared a grief so raw it didn't need words. Sometimes they would just sit together, holding Douglas' hand as he slept, silently praying for a miracle neither dared to say out loud. Some days brought tiny sparks of hope: a laugh, a mischievous comment, a brief burst of energy. Other days were darker, filled with pain and fear. Holidays felt bittersweet, celebrations shadowed by the ticking clock, and yet love showed up in the smallest gestures. Rich reading bedtime stories with exaggerated voices. Steffi sneaked in favorite homemade treats. Taylor braiding the small strands of hair that began to grow back after treatments. Liam sitting quietly, offering steady reassurance without needing to speak. This kind of tragedy changes a family forever. It strips away ego, rivalry, pride. It forces everyone to confront what truly matters. For the foresters, who are used to controlling outcomes, this was a humbling reminder that some battles can't be won with influence or determination alone. The emotional toll is massive. Steffi carries the unbearable weight of trying to be strong for her son while falling apart inside. Ridge wrestles with helplessness. Liam struggles with guilt and fear. Taylor balances logic with heartbreak. The entire family operates under a countdown they can't escape. And when time becomes limited, every decision becomes monumental. There is also the question of hope versus realism. How long do you fight aggressively? When do you prioritize comfort? These are questions no parent should ever have to answer. Yet, they define every step of this journey. I will be honest, stories like this hit differently. Watching a powerful family brought to its knees by a child's illness reminds us that vulnerability is universal. No amount of wealth or status shields you from heartbreak. And what stands out most to me is Douglas' bravery. Sometimes it's the smallest person in the room who shows the greatest strength. I also think the emotional honesty here is important. The arguments, the tears, the moments of doubt, they're real. Love doesn't magically erase fear, but it does give people something to hold on to when everything else feels like it's slipping away. So now, I want to ask you, if you were in Stephanie's position, would you push for every possible treatment, no matter the cost, or focus on making those final months as joyful and peaceful as possible? Do you think hope should always outweigh the odds, or is there a point where acceptance becomes an act of love? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because this is one of those stories that really makes you think about what matters most. If this touched you, if it made you reflect even a little, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We'll keep diving into stories that move us, challenge us, and remind us what it means to be human.